Silence is your superpower. Master your mind, speak with purpose, and influence without noise. A transformative guide by Enlight Audiobook that reveals how quiet confidence, emotional mastery, and intentional silence become your greatest competitive advantage in a noisy world. Introduction. The loudest strength. Often invisible power is often mistaken for the loudest voice in the room. Yet history tells a different story. The people who leave the deepest mark are rarely those who speak the most, but those who think with clarity, act with intention, and remain composed when others are consumed by noise. Their greatest strength is not found in constant expression, but in the quiet confidence that guides every decision and every word. Silence is far more than the absence of sound. It is the space where wisdom grows, emotions settle, and true self-control begins. In a world that rewards instant reactions and endless opinions, the ability to pause has become a rare and remarkable advantage. It sharpens judgment, strengthens relationships, and allows actions to carry greater weight than unnecessary words ever could. This book is an invitation to rediscover that forgotten strength. You will learn how intentional silence can transform the way you think, communicate, lead, and respond to life's challenges. It is not about speaking less for the sake of quietness. It is about speaking with purpose, listening with intention, and developing an unshakable inner presence that no external noise can disturb. The quiet revolution begins not around you, but within you. Chapter 1. Silence begins with the mind. A crowded room is not always the noisiest place. Sometimes the greatest disturbance exists behind a perfectly calm face. Long before words escape our lips, the mind is already holding countless conversations, replaying yesterday's disappointments, rehearsing tomorrow's uncertainties, and negotiating with fears that may never become reality. This invisible dialogue quietly shapes every decision, every relationship, and every opportunity we either embrace or avoid. The remarkable truth is that silence does not begin when the mouth stops speaking. It begins when the mind learns to stop arguing with itself. A person may spend an entire day without uttering a single word and still carry a storm within, while another may stand in the middle of chaos with an inner stillness that no external noise can disturb. That difference is the foundation of genuine strength. The modern world has mastered the art of capturing attention, but rarely teaches the art of protecting it. Every notification, opinion, headline, and expectation competes for a place in our thoughts until our mental landscape resembles a crowded marketplace where every voice demands immediate attention. In such an environment, clarity quietly disappears and decisions become reactions rather than deliberate choices. The mind was never designed to sprint endlessly without rest. Just as a lake cannot reflect the sky while its surface is constantly disturbed, a restless mind cannot accurately reflect wisdom. Calm thinking is not a luxury reserved for monks or philosophers. It is an essential discipline for anyone who wishes to live intentionally. Psychological research consistently shows that the human brain performs at its best when it is not overwhelmed by continuous stimulation. Constant mental switching leaves behind what experts often describe as attention residue, where fragments of previous thoughts linger and reduce our ability to focus on the present. This is why so many people finish a busy day feeling exhausted despite accomplishing very little. Their energy has been consumed not by meaningful work, but by endless mental interruptions. Learning to cultivate inner silence clears this residue, allowing the mind to regain its natural sharpness and creativity. Few modern leaders demonstrate this principle more clearly than Satya Nadella when he assumed leadership of Microsoft during one of the company's most uncertain periods. Rather than responding with dramatic speeches or impulsive decisions, he became known for listening deeply before speaking, encouraging curiosity instead of certainty, and creating space for thoughtful reflection across the organization. Colleagues often observed that meetings under his leadership contained more genuine listening than unnecessary talking. He resisted the pressure to appear as the person with all the answers, and instead asked better questions, allowing clearer solutions to emerge naturally. That quiet approach transformed not only Microsoft's culture but also its future, proving that influence often begins with disciplined attention rather than dominating conversation. His story reminds us that silence is not the absence of leadership. It is frequently the birthplace of wiser leadership. The same principle applies far beyond boardrooms. Every difficult conversation, every important decision, and every meaningful relationship begins inside the mind before it reaches the outside world. When the inner voice is filled with fear, comparison, or constant self-criticism, even simple situations become emotionally exhausting. Yet when the mind learns to observe instead of immediately react, something extraordinary begins to happen. Problems become puzzles rather than threats. Criticism becomes information rather than personal attack. Delays become opportunities for reflection instead of reasons for frustration. Between every event and every response exists a small but powerful space, and within that space lies the freedom to choose who we become. This quiet interval is where emotional intelligence is born and where resilience quietly grows stronger each day. Developing inner silence does not require escaping to remote mountains or abandoning modern life. It begins with small moments of intentional awareness, allowing a pause before replying, taking a slow breath before making a decision, or simply noticing thoughts without believing every one of them. These moments may appear insignificant, yet they gradually reshape the architecture of the mind. Just as a sculptor reveals beauty by removing unnecessary stone, inner silence reveals wisdom by removing unnecessary mental noise. The goal is not to eliminate thinking, but to elevate it, replacing scattered attention with deliberate focus and replacing impulsive reactions with thoughtful responses. Every person carries two voices within, one driven by urgency, fear, and distraction, and another guided by patience, clarity, and quiet conviction. The voice that grows stronger is the one we choose to cultivate. The world may continue to grow louder with every passing year, but your greatest advantage will never come from competing with its noise. It will come from mastering the silence within, because the strongest mind is not the one that thinks the fastest, but the one that thinks the clearest. As that inner silence expands, confidence no longer depends on external approval. Wisdom begins to outweigh impulse, and every purposeful action becomes a reflection of a mind that has finally learned the extraordinary strength of being still. Chapter 2. Speak less, say more. The most influential words are rarely the ones spoken first. They are the ones spoken after careful thought has stripped away everything unnecessary. Conversation has become one of the busiest marketplaces in modern life, where opinions are traded at remarkable speed and silence is often mistaken for uncertainty. Many people feel an invisible pressure to respond instantly, defend every viewpoint, or fill every pause with more words, believing that constant speaking demonstrates confidence. Yet the opposite is frequently true. Those who possess genuine confidence understand that communication is not measured by the number of sentences they produce, but by the depth of meaning those sentences carry. A river that rushes wildly often appears powerful, yet it is the deep river that moves with quiet certainty, carrying immense strength beneath a calm surface. Human communication follows a similar pattern. The loudest voices may capture attention for a moment, but thoughtful voices earn trust that endures for years. Speaking less is not about becoming silent for the sake of silence. It is about allowing every word to arrive with intention rather than impulse. Words have value much like currency. When spent carelessly, they lose their significance. When invested wisely, they create lasting influence. This explains why certain conversations remain unforgettable long after hundreds of ordinary exchanges have faded from memory. They are remembered because every sentence carried clarity, restraint, and purpose. Silence creates the space where better words are born. Without that pause, conversations become reactions instead of connections. Many misunderstand listening as a passive activity when, in reality, it is one of the most active demonstrations of emotional intelligence. Listening requires patience, curiosity, humility, and the willingness to understand another person's reality before attempting to change it. It asks us to temporarily set aside our own assumptions so another perspective has room to breathe. In a culture that often rewards being heard, choosing to truly hear someone else has become an extraordinary act of respect. People rarely remember every detail of what was said to them, but they remember how deeply they felt understood. Genuine listening communicates a message more powerful than words ever could. Your thoughts matter. That simple feeling has the remarkable ability to dissolve defensiveness, strengthen relationships, and build trust where arguments would otherwise flourish. One of the finest modern examples of this quiet influence can be found in the leadership style of Satya Nadella after he became Chief Executive Officer of Microsoft. At a time when the company faced enormous pressure to reinvent itself, many expected dramatic speeches and bold declarations. Instead, Nadella consistently demonstrated a different approach. During meetings, he listened far longer than he spoke, asking thoughtful questions before offering conclusions. Employees frequently described his curiosity as more noticeable than his authority. Rather than entering discussions determined to prove himself right, he entered them determined to learn something new. This subtle shift transformed the culture around him. Teams became more willing to share ideas because they felt heard rather than judged. Innovation flourished because conversations became explorations instead of competitions. His influence did not emerge from dominating every room, but from creating an environment where others could think more clearly. The lesson is profound. People do not merely follow those who speak well, they willingly follow those who make others feel valued. Every meaningful conversation contains invisible signals beyond spoken language. A calm posture, steady eye contact, an attentive expression, and a comfortable pause often communicate greater confidence than rapid explanations ever can. These quiet forms of communication reveal emotional stability because they show there is no desperate need to impress or control the moment. Someone who interrupts constantly is usually competing for attention, while someone who listens patiently is quietly building authority. Presence cannot be manufactured through louder speech. It is earned through calm awareness. There is remarkable strength in resisting the urge to answer immediately. A brief pause before responding allows emotion to settle and wisdom to catch up with instinct. That single moment often separates conversations that heal from conversations that harm. It transforms disagreement into dialogue and criticism into understanding. Strategic silence is not avoidance, it is discernment. It is the ability to recognize that not every opinion deserves a response, not every misunderstanding requires correction, and not every battle is worthy of your peace. This realization liberates the mind from the exhausting habit of seeking the final word. Ironically, the people who feel compelled to explain themselves constantly often weaken their message, while those who speak with measured restraint leave others wanting to hear more. Mystery, when supported by authenticity, naturally attracts attention because confidence never feels obligated to announce itself. Every unnecessary word slightly dilutes the impact of the essential ones, just as adding too much water weakens the richness of a fine cup of coffee. Thoughtful communication is therefore an act of refinement, removing excess until only what truly matters remains. As this habit develops, conversations become less about proving intelligence and more about creating understanding. Relationships deepen because people feel respected rather than managed. Opportunities expand because calm communicators inspire confidence even before they begin to speak. Influence grows quietly, almost unnoticed, until others begin seeking your perspective, not because you speak often, but because they know your words are worth waiting for. The greatest communicators have never been those who mastered the art of talking endlessly. They mastered the far rarer art of knowing exactly when silence should speak first and when a single purposeful sentence can change everything. Chapter 3. Emotional control is silent power. The strongest battles are rarely fought in public. They unfold quietly within the human mind during the few invisible seconds between feeling an emotion and choosing a response. In that brief interval, futures are shaped, relationships are preserved or broken, careers are elevated or damaged, and character quietly reveals itself. Anger arrives quickly, disappointment strikes without warning, criticism stings unexpectedly, and fear often whispers its loudest arguments when no one else is listening. These emotions are not signs of weakness, they are part of being human. The true measure of strength is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Many people spend years attempting to control the world around them while neglecting the only domain they can genuinely govern, their own reactions. Emotional control is often misunderstood as suppressing feelings, yet suppression only buries emotion beneath the surface, where it quietly gathers pressure. Genuine self-mastery begins by acknowledging emotions without allowing them to become commanders of behavior. Silence becomes invaluable at this moment because it creates the breathing space where wisdom can overtake instinct. A mind that reacts instantly becomes a prisoner of circumstance, while a mind that pauses gains the freedom to choose its direction. Modern neuroscience offers a remarkable explanation for this phenomenon. When we experience sudden anger or fear, the brain's emotional center reacts almost instantly, preparing the body for immediate action. Heart rate increases, breathing becomes faster, muscles tighten, and attention narrows toward the perceived threat. This automatic response once protected human survival, but in everyday life, it often encourages impulsive words that leave lasting wounds long after the emotion has faded. The remarkable gift of the human brain, however, is its ability to interrupt this automatic chain. A conscious pause allows the rational regions of the mind to regain influence, transforming reaction into reflection. Silence is therefore not empty time. It is the bridge that reconnects emotion with intelligence. Every calm breath taken before speaking quietly strengthens that bridge until emotional composure becomes a habit rather than an exception. Few modern figures embodied this discipline more powerfully than Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years imprisoned under harsh conditions, he emerged carrying every reason to respond with bitterness, revenge, or resentment. The world expected anger because anger appeared justified. Yet Mandela chose something infinitely more difficult. During negotiations that would shape the future of South Africa, he listened patiently even to those who had once denied him freedom. His calm presence unsettled opponents more than outrage ever could, because they encountered a man whose emotions no longer controlled his judgment. His silence during tense conversations was never a sign of surrender. It was evidence of extraordinary inner authority. Every thoughtful pause reflected years of self-discipline forged under unimaginable hardship. Instead of allowing pain to dictate his decisions, he transformed suffering into wisdom and conflict into reconciliation. His emotional restraint did not erase injustice, but it prevented injustice from defining the future of an entire nation. That is the remarkable power of silent strength. It changes not only the individual, but also everyone influenced by that individual's choices. Everyday life constantly presents smaller versions of the same challenge. A colleague questions your abilities in front of others. A stranger speaks harshly without understanding your circumstances. A family disagreement awakens old frustrations that seem impossible to forget. In these moments, the easiest response is rarely the wisest one. An impulsive reply may satisfy the emotion of the moment, but it often creates regret that lingers far longer than the original incident. Silence offers something remarkably different. It allows emotion to lose its urgency before words give it permanence. Many arguments continue not because the problem is impossible to solve, but because both people are speaking while neither has truly regained emotional balance. Sometimes the greatest contribution to a conversation is not another opinion, but a deliberate pause that changes the emotional temperature of the entire room. Such restraint should never be confused with weakness. A mountain remains unmoved, not because it lacks strength, but because its foundation runs too deep to be shaken by every passing storm. Likewise, emotionally mature individuals are not controlled by every criticism, disappointment, or provocation, because their stability comes from within rather than from external approval. They understand that another person's behavior often reveals more about that person's emotional state than about their own worth. This realization frees them from the exhausting need to defend themselves against every misunderstanding or insult. Emotional silence also nurtures compassion. When immediate judgment is replaced by thoughtful observation, curiosity begins to replace assumption. Instead of asking, "How can I prove I am right?" the wiser question becomes, "What might this person be experiencing that I cannot yet see?" Such thinking softens unnecessary conflict without sacrificing personal boundaries. It transforms conversations from contests of ego into opportunities for understanding. The quietest response is often the one that carries the greatest dignity because it demonstrates confidence strong enough to resist emotional chaos. Every experience in life will offer opportunities to practice this discipline. Some moments will be small enough to forget by tomorrow, while others may define entire seasons of your life. Regardless of their size, they all ask the same silent question. Will your emotions lead your wisdom, or will your wisdom lead your emotions? The answer is never determined by circumstance alone, but by the pause you choose to create before responding. Each time you replace impulse with intention, you strengthen a part of yourself that no external challenge can easily weaken. In time, emotional control becomes more than a skill. It becomes part of your identity. You begin to discover that the loudest victories are not celebrated in crowded arenas, but won quietly within the heart, where silence patiently transforms ordinary reactions into extraordinary strength. Chapter 4. The Confidence of Quiet People. Confidence has never depended on the volume of a voice. It has always depended on the steadiness of a mind. Yet the modern world often presents a different illusion, encouraging people to believe that visibility is the same as value and that the loudest presence naturally commands the greatest respect. Social platforms reward constant expression, meetings often favor those who speak first, and everyday conversations can resemble competitions for attention rather than opportunities for understanding. Amid this relentless pursuit of recognition, quiet confidence is frequently overlooked because it does not advertise itself. It enters a room without demanding notice, listens before forming conclusions, and speaks only when its words have something meaningful to contribute. Like the roots of an ancient oak hidden beneath the earth, its strength remains largely invisible, yet it is precisely that hidden foundation that allows it to endure storms capable of toppling far taller structures. True confidence is an internal condition rather than an external performance. It is not measured by how often someone speaks, how many people applaud, or how much attention they receive. It is reflected in the ability to remain authentic without constantly seeking validation. Many individuals spend enormous amounts of energy trying to convince others of their worth, unaware that this constant need for approval quietly weakens the very confidence they hope to project. Genuine self-assurance carries a different rhythm. It does not rush to impress because it has nothing to prove. It does not fear disagreement because it does not depend upon universal acceptance. It understands that respect earned through consistency will always outlast admiration gained through performance. The quieter a person's confidence becomes, the less dependent they are on external applause to feel complete. This shift marks one of the most liberating transformations a person can experience. Instead of asking, "Do they approve of me?" the question gradually becomes, "Am I living according to my values?" That single change redirects attention from public opinion to personal integrity, where lasting confidence quietly takes root. Insecurity, by contrast, often disguises itself as excessive certainty. It interrupts conversations to avoid appearing uninformed, exaggerates achievements to gain admiration, and reacts defensively whenever its identity feels threatened. Such behavior may appear bold on the surface, but beneath it usually lies a fragile dependence on external reassurance. A magnificent building constructed on unstable ground may appear impressive for a time, yet every tremor exposes the weakness beneath its foundation. Quiet confidence resembles a structure built upon solid rock. It does not need constant maintenance from compliments because its strength originates from character rather than recognition. This explains why emotionally secure individuals are comfortable admitting mistakes, asking thoughtful questions, and acknowledging what they do not know. They understand that humility does not diminish credibility, it strengthens it. Every honest admission becomes evidence that their identity is secure enough to embrace growth instead of pretending to possess perfection. One of the most remarkable characteristics of quietly confident people is their ability to remain composed when circumstances become uncertain. They do not confuse panic with productivity or urgency with effectiveness. While others rush to react, they create space to observe the situation carefully before deciding upon the most appropriate response. This calm presence naturally inspires trust because people instinctively feel safer around individuals who remain emotionally grounded during moments of confusion. Leadership, whether within a family, an organization, or a community, often emerges not from charisma alone, but from emotional stability. A steady voice spoken at the right moment can guide others more effectively than countless passionate speeches delivered without clarity. Quiet confidence, therefore, becomes contagious. Calmness encourages calmness. Composure invites composure. People unconsciously borrow emotional signals from those around them, and a person who consistently demonstrates inner stability gradually becomes a source of reassurance for others. Another defining quality of quiet confidence is the willingness to allow actions to speak where unnecessary explanations would only weaken credibility. There is profound dignity in accomplishing meaningful work without constantly announcing every achievement. A tree does not produce fruit to prove its worth. It simply grows according to its nature, and the fruit becomes visible in its proper season. Human character follows a similar principle. Integrity, reliability, kindness, discipline, and wisdom reveal themselves through repeated behavior far more convincingly than through carefully chosen words. Those who truly possess these qualities rarely feel compelled to advertise them because they understand that authentic reputation grows slowly through consistent action rather than immediate persuasion. This patience distinguishes confidence from ego. Ego demands recognition today, while confidence trusts that genuine value eventually becomes impossible to ignore. The habit of comparing ourselves with others quietly erodes this inner strength because comparison shifts attention away from personal growth toward external measurement. There will always be someone wealthier, more talented, more experienced, or more visible. Chasing these endless comparisons is like attempting to reach the horizon. It appears close enough to pursue, yet moves farther away with every step. Quietly confident people choose a different path. They compare today's character with yesterday's character rather than measuring their lives against someone else's journey. Progress becomes personal instead of competitive. This perspective transforms success from a race into a process of continual refinement. Every lesson learned, every fear overcome, and every disciplined choice made becomes evidence of genuine growth, regardless of whether anyone else notices. Such confidence cannot be stolen because it has been built through experience rather than borrowed from public opinion. There is also remarkable courage in remaining silent when silence protects dignity. Not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every criticism deserves an argument, and not every misunderstanding requires immediate correction. Time possesses a unique ability to reveal truth that endless explanations often cannot. Quiet confidence understands this principle. It trusts that consistent character will ultimately speak louder than temporary opinions. Choosing not to engage in every conflict is not avoidance, it is discernment. It reflects the wisdom to recognize where energy creates value and where it is merely consumed by unnecessary struggle. Life offers countless opportunities to prove ourselves, yet the greatest victories often belong to those who no longer feel compelled to prove anything at all. When confidence is rooted in self-respect instead of public approval, peace gradually replaces anxiety, authenticity replaces performance, and purpose replaces comparison. At that point, silence no longer feels uncomfortable because it becomes the natural language of a mind that knows its worth. The world may continue rewarding noise, but lasting influence will always belong to those whose quiet confidence shines so consistently that their presence speaks long before their words ever do. Chapter 5. Silence sharpens decisions. Every meaningful decision is made twice. The first version is born in emotion, urgency, and instinct. The second is shaped by reflection, patience, and quiet reasoning. The direction of a life often depends on which version is allowed to lead. Many of the regrets people carry are not the result of lacking intelligence, but of making permanent choices during temporary emotional states. A harsh message sent in anger, a financial investment driven by excitement, a career change motivated by frustration, or a relationship abandoned because of pride can alter years of a person's life in only a few impulsive moments. Decisions made in haste frequently satisfy the emotions of today while quietly borrowing peace from tomorrow. Silence interrupts this pattern. It creates the precious interval where immediate feelings lose their authority and thoughtful judgment begins to emerge. In a world that celebrates speed, the willingness to slow down has become an uncommon advantage. Society often admires quick thinkers, instant responses, and rapid conclusions, yet history repeatedly demonstrates that many of humanity's greatest achievements were not born from urgency but from deliberate contemplation. The architect studies the blueprint before laying the first stone, the surgeon pauses before making the first incision, and the experienced captain carefully observes changing winds before altering the ship's course. Their success depends not upon acting quickly, but upon acting wisely. Life demands the same discipline. Every important decision deserves enough silence to reveal what excitement, fear, or pressure might otherwise conceal. A restless mind tends to confuse movement with progress. It constantly seeks action because stillness feels uncomfortable, yet motion without direction often leads people farther from the destination they truly desire. Reflection transforms movement into purpose by asking better questions before seeking faster answers. Instead of asking, "What should I do immediately?" a wiser mind quietly asks, "What choice will still make sense a year from now?" That simple shift changes everything because it expands perspective beyond the emotion of the present moment. Psychology describes a phenomenon known as decision fatigue, the gradual decline in judgment that occurs after making countless choices throughout the day. Every decision, no matter how small, consumes a portion of our mental energy. Choosing what to wear, answering messages, responding to emails, solving unexpected problems, and adapting to changing circumstances gradually reduce the brain's ability to think clearly. By evening, many people unknowingly make poorer decisions simply because their cognitive resources have been depleted. Silence becomes a form of mental recovery. Moments of uninterrupted reflection allow the brain to reset, reducing emotional interference and restoring clarity. This explains why solutions to difficult problems often appear during quiet walks, early mornings, or peaceful evenings rather than in the middle of frantic activity. The mind does some of its finest work when it is given room to breathe. Warren Buffett, one of the world's most respected investors, has often emphasized that his greatest strength is not extraordinary intelligence, but disciplined thinking. While financial markets fluctuate with excitement and fear, Buffett has consistently resisted the pressure to react impulsively. He spends a significant portion of each day reading, thinking, and reflecting before making important investment decisions. During periods when others rush to follow popular trends or panic over temporary market declines, he remains remarkably patient, waiting until the facts become clear and opportunities align with careful analysis. This deliberate pace has allowed him to avoid countless costly mistakes while identifying opportunities invisible to those consumed by urgency. His success illustrates a timeless principle extending far beyond investing. Wisdom often belongs to those who refuse to let the crowd think on their behalf. Silence grants the independence required to evaluate situations according to reason rather than social pressure. Everyday life offers countless opportunities to practice this discipline. A disagreement at work invites an immediate response, yet waiting until emotions settle often produces a more constructive conversation. An attractive opportunity promises instant rewards, yet quiet reflection may reveal hidden risks overlooked by excitement. A difficult choice between comfort and growth appears confusing in the moment, but a calm mind naturally begins to distinguish temporary pleasure from lasting fulfillment. Silence does not eliminate uncertainty, but it reduces unnecessary confusion by separating genuine priorities from emotional distractions. It encourages people to think beyond appearances and examine consequences that impulsive thinking rarely considers. This habit gradually transforms decision-making from a reactionary process into an intentional practice guided by values rather than moods. There is also remarkable freedom in accepting that not every decision requires immediate resolution. Many individuals suffer because they mistake urgency for importance, believing every unanswered question must be solved at once. Yet some of life's greatest insights arrive only after time has quietly arranged scattered pieces into a clearer picture. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active trust that clarity often emerges through observation rather than force. Just as muddy water becomes transparent when left undisturbed, the mind also settles when given sufficient stillness. The answers were often present from the beginning, hidden only by the turbulence of hurried thinking. This metaphor reminds us that clarity is rarely created through pressure. It is revealed through patience. Silence also protects people from the powerful influence of external expectations. Friends, family, colleagues, media, and society continuously offer opinions about what success should look like, where happiness should be found, and how quickly life should unfold. Without regular moments of reflection, these voices gradually become indistinguishable from our own thoughts. We begin pursuing goals that impress others instead of fulfilling ourselves. Quiet contemplation restores the ability to hear one's authentic convictions beneath the noise of public expectation. It asks uncomfortable but transformative questions. Is this decision aligned with my deepest values? Am I choosing this path because it is meaningful or because it is popular? Will this choice strengthen the person I hope to become? Such questions cannot be answered honestly amid constant distraction. They require silence because truth rarely shouts. It usually whispers. Every thoughtful decision gradually shapes the architecture of a person's future. Character is not built through one dramatic choice, but through countless quiet moments when wisdom consistently prevails over impulse. Each pause before speaking, each hour spent reflecting before acting, and each refusal to surrender judgment to emotional pressure strengthens an inner compass that becomes increasingly reliable over time. Eventually, silence is no longer something you deliberately practice before making important decisions. It becomes the natural environment in which your best decisions are born. The world may continue demanding faster answers, but those who cultivate the courage to think deeply will always possess an advantage that urgency can never replace. The clearest path forward is rarely discovered by those who hurry toward it. It is found by those who become still enough to recognize it when it quietly appears. Chapter 6. The Silent Habits of High Performers. Extraordinary achievement rarely announces itself with dramatic beginnings. More often, it grows quietly behind closed doors, hidden from applause and untouched by distraction, while the world remains occupied with visible success rather than the invisible discipline that created it. Every remarkable performer, regardless of profession or background, eventually discovers a truth that many overlook. Excellence is built during moments that nobody celebrates. Long before the standing ovations, promotions, championships, best-selling books, or groundbreaking innovations arrive, there are countless hours of focused work carried out in silence. These hours are neither glamorous nor exciting. They consist of repeated practice, careful reflection, deliberate learning, and patient refinement. It is tempting to believe that exceptional people possess extraordinary talent unavailable to everyone else, yet closer observation reveals something far more encouraging. Their greatest advantage is often not superior ability, but superior attention. They have learned to protect their minds from unnecessary noise so they can invest their energy where it creates lasting value. In a culture that glorifies busyness, this ability has become increasingly rare. Many people confuse being constantly occupied with being genuinely productive, filling every moment with activity while making surprisingly little meaningful progress. They answer messages without pause, switch endlessly between tasks, chase every new opportunity, and wear exhaustion as though it were evidence of ambition. Yet movement without focus resembles running on a treadmill. Tremendous effort is expended while the destination remains unchanged. High performers understand that progress demands concentration rather than constant motion. They recognize that every unnecessary interruption quietly steals a portion of creative energy that cannot easily be recovered. For this reason, they become guardians of their attention, treating it as one of their most valuable resources. Silence becomes the environment where that resource can grow stronger instead of being scattered across countless distractions. Modern neuroscience offers powerful support for this approach. The brain performs at its highest level when allowed to engage deeply with a single meaningful task for an extended period. During such periods of uninterrupted concentration, neural connections strengthen, creativity expands, and complex problems become easier to solve. This state, often described as deep work, cannot flourish amid continuous interruptions because every distraction forces the mind to rebuild its focus from the beginning. The cost of this constant switching is rarely visible, yet it gradually erodes productivity, decision-making, and mental clarity. High performers instinctively understand this principle even without scientific terminology. They schedule uninterrupted time for thinking, creating, reading, and improving because they know that sustained attention consistently outperforms scattered effort. Their calendars may appear quieter than those of many busy individuals, but their results speak with unmistakable authority. Silence does not reduce productivity. It multiplies it by allowing the mind to operate at its full capacity. Reading has long been one of the quiet habits shared by many of history's most accomplished individuals. Books offer something increasingly uncommon in modern life: uninterrupted dialogue with profound ideas. Unlike social media or fragmented headlines that demand immediate reactions, thoughtful reading invites patience, reflection, and intellectual growth. Each page slows the pace of the mind just enough for understanding to deepen beyond surface-level information. High performers recognize that every book is a conversation with someone who has already spent years learning lessons they can now share within a few hours. This quiet investment compounds over time, gradually expanding perspective, improving judgment, and strengthening wisdom. The benefits may not appear overnight, but like small deposits into a long-term investment account, they eventually create extraordinary returns. Reflection forms another essential habit. Many people complete each day without pausing to examine what they learned, what challenged them, or how they responded to unexpected situations. Experiences alone do not produce growth. Experiences examined thoughtfully become wisdom. Reflection transforms ordinary days into valuable teachers by extracting lessons hidden beneath routine events. It encourages honest questions rather than comfortable assumptions. What strengthened my character today? Where did emotion overpower judgment? What deserves more attention tomorrow? These quiet conversations with oneself often become the birthplace of lasting improvement because they replace unconscious repetition with intentional refinement. Every day then becomes not merely another passage of time, but another opportunity to become wiser than the day before. High performers also understand the remarkable power of consistency. Dramatic bursts of motivation may feel inspiring, but they rarely sustain meaningful progress. Quiet discipline, practiced repeatedly over months and years, produces results that temporary enthusiasm cannot match. Consider the sculptor patiently removing tiny fragments of stone each day. No single strike appears significant, yet eventually an extraordinary masterpiece emerges from what once seemed an ordinary block of marble. Human potential develops in much the same way. Every focused hour, every intentional habit, every disciplined choice, and every moment of perseverance removes another unnecessary layer until the strongest version of oneself gradually becomes visible. The transformation is so gradual that it often goes unnoticed until others begin asking what secret produced such remarkable progress. There is no secret beyond the willingness to honor small disciplines long enough for extraordinary outcomes to emerge naturally. Protecting silence also requires the courage to establish boundaries. Every meaningful goal competes against countless distractions eager to consume attention. Notifications, unnecessary meetings, endless entertainment, and the constant expectation of availability quietly erode the time required for significant work. High performers become selective rather than reactive. They understand that every unnecessary yes often becomes a hidden no to something far more important. Protecting one's schedule is therefore not selfishness, but stewardship. Time once spent cannot be reclaimed, making every hour one of life's most valuable investments. Silence provides the space where priorities remain visible instead of becoming buried beneath urgency. It reminds us that effectiveness is determined less by how much we do than by how intentionally we choose what truly deserves our effort. Perhaps the most inspiring quality shared by high performers is their willingness to embrace solitude without fearing loneliness. They understand that solitude creates opportunities unavailable amid constant company. It allows original ideas to develop without external influence, strengthens self-awareness, and encourages decisions guided by conviction rather than social approval. While others seek continuous stimulation, they occasionally choose quiet moments where creativity can unfold naturally. These moments are not escapes from life, but preparations for engaging with life more effectively. The greatest breakthroughs often arrive not in crowded rooms, but during silent walks, early mornings, thoughtful journaling, or peaceful reflection when the mind is finally free from competing demands. Every remarkable achievement begins long before anyone else notices it. It begins with an ordinary individual making an extraordinary commitment to protect attention, honor discipline, embrace patience, and cultivate silence as a daily habit rather than an occasional luxury. The world celebrates visible success, but visible success is almost always the final chapter of a much longer story written quietly in private. If you wish to build a life of lasting excellence, do not become distracted by the noise surrounding achievement. Instead, learn to value the silent routines that shape it. For in the end, greatness is rarely created in moments of applause. It is patiently forged in moments of focused silence where no audience exists except your future self. Chapter 7. Silence strengthens relationships. The deepest relationships are not built by the number of conversations two people have, but by the quality of understanding that quietly grows between them. It is possible to spend hours talking without truly connecting, just as it is possible to share a few thoughtful moments of silence and feel completely understood. Modern communication has become faster than ever before, yet genuine connection often feels more difficult to find. Messages arrive instantly, opinions travel across the world in seconds, and conversations rarely pause long enough for real understanding to take root. Everyone wants to be heard, but far fewer people have mastered the equally important art of making another person feel heard. This imbalance quietly weakens friendships, families, marriages, and workplaces because relationships flourish not through constant expression, but through mutual understanding. Silence becomes the bridge that transforms communication from an exchange of words into an exchange of trust. It allows us to notice emotions hidden behind expressions, concerns concealed beneath confidence, and hopes that are never spoken aloud. In many ways, listening is love expressed without words. When someone feels genuinely listened to, they experience something far more valuable than agreement. They experience significance. They feel respected, accepted, and emotionally safe enough to reveal their authentic selves. That sense of safety cannot be manufactured through clever advice or impressive speeches. It is created by patient attention. Many conflicts continue not because people fundamentally disagree, but because each person is preparing their next response instead of fully hearing what the other is trying to say. The mind becomes so occupied with defending itself that curiosity quietly disappears. Silence interrupts this cycle. It invites understanding before judgment and empathy before opinion. This simple shift has the power to transform relationships more effectively than countless attempts to win arguments. Every meaningful connection begins with the willingness to understand another person's experience before asking them to understand yours. Emotional intelligence reveals itself most clearly during difficult conversations. Anyone can remain calm when life unfolds according to expectation, but genuine maturity appears when emotions become complicated and misunderstandings arise. A careless sentence spoken during frustration may linger in someone's memory for years, while a thoughtful pause can prevent unnecessary wounds from ever being created. Silence offers that pause. It creates enough distance between emotion and speech for compassion to replace impulse. Instead of reacting to the words we hear, we begin responding to the emotions beneath them. A partner's irritation may actually be exhaustion. A friend's withdrawal may conceal disappointment rather than indifference. A colleague's impatience may reflect pressure rather than disrespect. Quiet observation allows these hidden realities to emerge, replacing assumptions with understanding. This ability does not make relationships free from conflict, but it changes the way conflict is experienced. Disagreements become opportunities for deeper understanding instead of competitions to determine who is right. Trust grows strongest in moments when people feel accepted despite their imperfections. Silence contributes to that trust because it communicates patience. It assures others that they have permission to finish their thoughts without interruption, express uncertainty without judgment, and share vulnerability without fear of immediate criticism. Such moments often become turning points in relationships because people rarely forget those who gave them the rare gift of complete attention. Advice is quickly forgotten when it arrives before understanding, but wisdom offered after genuine listening often remains for a lifetime. This principle applies equally within families, friendships, workplaces, and communities. Every person carries invisible burdens unknown to those around them. Some quietly struggle with anxiety while appearing cheerful. Others carry disappointment hidden beneath smiles. Many simply long for someone willing to listen without trying to immediately solve every problem. Sometimes the greatest act of kindness is not providing answers, but providing presence. Presence communicates, "You do not have to carry this moment alone." Few sentences possess greater healing power than that silent message. Silence also teaches restraint during moments when relationships are tested by misunderstanding. Every close connection eventually encounters disagreements, differing expectations, and emotional disappointments. During such moments, the temptation to prove oneself right often overshadows the desire to preserve the relationship itself. Pride begins composing arguments while humility quietly waits for understanding. Choosing silence does not mean ignoring genuine problems or avoiding honest conversations. Instead, it means allowing emotions to settle before words determine the direction of the relationship. A calm discussion held after thoughtful reflection almost always accomplishes more than an emotional confrontation driven by wounded pride. Relationships rarely collapse because of one major disagreement alone. More often, they are gradually weakened by countless small moments where impatience replaced empathy, assumption replaced curiosity, and reaction replaced reflection. Silence gently reverses that pattern, encouraging responses guided by wisdom rather than temporary emotion. Respect naturally follows those who consistently demonstrate this level of emotional discipline because people instinctively trust individuals who create peace instead of unnecessary tension. Another remarkable quality of silence is its ability to deepen appreciation. When conversations slow down and attention becomes more intentional, ordinary moments regain extraordinary significance. A shared walk without constant phone notifications, a family meal where everyone is fully present, or simply sitting beside someone without feeling compelled to fill every second with conversation reminds us that companionship itself is often enough. Some of life's richest memories contain surprisingly few words because genuine connection transcends language. Presence becomes its own conversation. Love becomes visible through attention rather than elaborate declarations. Friendship strengthens through consistency rather than constant communication. These quiet moments quietly remind us that relationships are not sustained by impressive performances, but by sincere presence, offered repeatedly over time. Every meaningful relationship ultimately becomes a reflection of the emotional habits practiced within it. Where patience grows, trust flourishes. Where listening becomes a priority, understanding naturally follows. Where silence creates room for compassion, love finds space to mature. The strongest bonds are rarely those without conflict, but those where both people learn to value understanding above victory. In the end, the words people remember most are often not the ones that filled every silence, but the ones that arrived after silence had prepared the heart to truly receive them. When you learn to listen with genuine presence, speak with thoughtful intention, and value connection above ego, your relationships cease to be ordinary conversations and become places where people discover something increasingly rare in today's noisy world: the quiet comfort of being completely understood. Chapter 8. Living with Purpose in a Noisy World. Noise is no longer something that exists only outside us. It has quietly taken residence within our daily routines, our habits, and even our thoughts. The moment the morning begins, countless voices compete for attention before our own mind has the opportunity to awaken fully. Notifications replace reflection, endless scrolling replaces intention, and the opinions of strangers often shape our emotions before we have even decided how we wish to feel. Never before has humanity been surrounded by so much information while struggling so deeply for clarity. Technology has connected the world in extraordinary ways, yet many people feel increasingly disconnected from themselves. The challenge of modern life is therefore no longer gaining access to knowledge, but learning how to protect wisdom from being buried beneath endless distraction. Living with purpose requires far more than setting ambitious goals. It requires creating an environment where those goals can survive the constant demands of a noisy world. Purpose cannot grow in a mind that is permanently occupied by urgency. Like a delicate seed, it requires moments of stillness before it can develop into something strong enough to withstand life's inevitable storms. Many people spend years chasing success without ever pausing to ask why they are running so hard. Society offers endless definitions of achievement: higher income, greater recognition, larger possessions, busier schedules, but purpose asks a quieter and more meaningful question. Does the life you are building reflect the person you truly wish to become? That question cannot be answered while rushing from one distraction to another. It requires silence because authentic answers rarely compete for attention. They emerge gradually when external expectations become quiet enough for inner conviction to be heard. This explains why some of the most outwardly successful individuals continue to feel restless despite accomplishing everything they once believed would satisfy them. Achievement without purpose creates temporary excitement, but purpose transforms ordinary effort into lasting fulfillment. Silence provides the space where that transformation begins. One of the greatest challenges to purposeful living is the constant comparison encouraged by digital culture. Every day presents carefully edited snapshots of other people's achievements, celebrations, travels, relationships, and milestones. Over time, these images quietly reshape expectations until many begin measuring the quality of their lives against someone else's highlight reel. Comparison steals attention from personal growth by directing energy toward circumstances beyond our control. It encourages imitation instead of authenticity and competition instead of contribution. Yet every meaningful life follows its own unique rhythm. A flower does not bloom more beautifully because another flower blossoms earlier. It simply grows according to the season designed for it. Human potential unfolds in much the same way. When comparison gives way to quiet self-reflection, confidence gradually replaces insecurity because progress is measured against personal values rather than public approval. Purpose flourishes where comparison fades. Establishing moments of intentional silence each day becomes one of the most practical ways to protect this inner clarity. A few quiet minutes before the demands of the morning begin can shape the emotional direction of an entire day. During these moments, the mind gradually shifts from reacting to choosing. Priorities become clearer, emotions become steadier, and attention becomes less vulnerable to unnecessary distractions. The same principle applies during the evening. Rather than ending each day immersed in endless information, thoughtful reflection allows experiences to settle into understanding. Gratitude becomes easier to recognize, lessons become easier to identify, and tomorrow begins with greater clarity because yesterday was processed rather than merely endured. These simple rituals require no extraordinary resources, yet they quietly transform the quality of everyday living. They remind us that peace is not something discovered by escaping life, but by changing the way we engage with it. Protecting mental energy also requires learning the quiet discipline of saying no. Every invitation accepted, every unnecessary obligation embraced, and every distraction entertained quietly consumes time that could have been invested elsewhere. Many people fear disappointing others, yet in trying to satisfy everyone, they gradually disappoint themselves. Purpose demands selectivity because every meaningful commitment requires the sacrifice of something less important. This truth is often uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. A clear life is built not only by the opportunities we pursue, but by the distractions we deliberately decline. Silence strengthens this discernment because it teaches us to distinguish between what is merely urgent and what is genuinely important. Every thoughtful refusal creates space for something more valuable to grow. There is remarkable freedom in realizing that productivity is not determined by how many tasks fill a calendar, but by how closely those tasks align with one's deepest priorities. Solitude also becomes a trusted companion on the journey toward purposeful living. Many people avoid being alone because silence initially reveals thoughts they have long ignored. Yet those very thoughts often contain the wisdom necessary for meaningful change. Solitude invites honest conversations that crowded schedules rarely permit. It asks questions capable of reshaping an entire life. Am I living according to my own convictions or merely fulfilling expectations placed upon me? Am I investing my time where it creates lasting significance, or am I simply remaining busy? What kind of person are my daily habits quietly creating? These questions possess tremendous power because they shift attention away from temporary achievements toward enduring character. Every purposeful life is ultimately built from the accumulation of small, intentional decisions repeated consistently over time. Great transformations rarely occur through dramatic moments alone. They emerge gradually through ordinary choices guided by extraordinary clarity. The beauty of silence is that it continually returns us to what matters most. It strips away unnecessary complexity until values become visible once again. It reminds us that fulfillment grows from alignment rather than accumulation, from contribution rather than comparison, and from presence rather than perpetual distraction. The world will always offer another notification, another trend, another opinion, and another reason to abandon what truly matters. Yet those who cultivate intentional silence carry within themselves a compass that remains steady regardless of external noise. They no longer allow the world to dictate the direction of their lives because they have learned to listen to a quieter voice, the voice of purpose. In the end, living with purpose is not about escaping the noise surrounding us, but about becoming so deeply rooted in clarity that the noise gradually loses its power to determine our path. When silence becomes a daily companion rather than an occasional escape, every decision gains greater intention, every relationship carries deeper meaning, and every ordinary day becomes another quiet step toward an extraordinary life. Conclusion. Your greatest power has always been within you. The world will continue to grow louder, faster, and more demanding, but your greatest advantage will never come from adding more noise. It will come from mastering the quiet strength that already exists within you. Every thoughtful pause, every calm response, every intentional word, and every moment of silent reflection shapes a mind that cannot be easily distracted, manipulated, or shaken. Silence is not the absence of confidence, courage, or influence. It is the foundation of them all. It helps you think clearly, lead wisely, build deeper relationships, make better decisions, and live according to your values instead of the expectations of others. As you close this book, remember that transformation does not begin with a dramatic announcement. It begins with one quiet choice, the choice to pause before reacting, to listen before speaking, and to think before deciding. Practice these habits consistently, and over time they will become part of who you are. Your superpower has never been your ability to speak the loudest. It has always been your ability to remain calm when others panic, to stay focused when others are distracted, and to choose wisdom when others choose noise. The quiet revolution begins today, and it begins with you.